for the basic slip knot. So you're going to take your yarn, the end of it, over here, and you're going to go and you're going to wrap it around your finger. And you can leave it a little loose so you'll be able to pull the other yarn through. So you see how it's wrapped around? So you're going to take this string of the yarn and then you're going to pull it through that loop. And you see how it's making another loop right here? So you're just going to pull that loop and then take it off of your finger, so it kind of almost resembles a little pretzel. And then what you do is you just tighten it. And then when you tighten it, it's going to make your knot tighter or looser depending on the size or looseness that you need. So there is a slip knot. So we can try that one more time again. And the slip knot, you see, it easily comes apart again. Take the bottom of the strand here, you wrap it around your finger, then take this part that's still in your hand and pull it through that loop, and see how the new loop is coming off. You tuck your finger out, you have kind of a pretzel shape, and then it tightens and it's adjustable. So again, the size of your hook, you can adjust it to any size that you need. And that is the slip knot. Just finished our slip knot and we are going to do a chain stitch. So you make sure that the knot is facing towards you, and then you're going to wrap the yarn around your fingers. Now the point of this is to create a tension, so all your stitches will end up being even. So it's kind of what you think is best for you. When I do crocheting or knitting, I take the yarn and kind of wrap it around my pinky like so. So you see that? Then I wrap it all the way around like that. So it's wrapped towards my index finger. Then I just kind of use that, so it creates, see how it creates that same even tension as you pull through. So I'll try that again. You wrap it around the pinky, up, over, or the palm of your hand, and you're going to kind of wrap it around your index finger, just a little bit like this. Alright, so now that we have the tension, right, and also, like I said, you can hold it like this too, and just hold it, so make sure everything's even. So it's all what works best for you. So now that I have this part, we'll start with our chain stitch, which is basically a very basic how you're going to get started with crocheting. You hold down that knot part right here, so you have that loop, and you're going to end up always hooking the new yarn through that loop to make your stitches. So the chain stitch, take it, see how I hooked my yarn? I go underneath it and I hook it. That's what that hook is for, and I slightly twist it so the hook is being used. See how it slightly twists? So the yarn doesn't fall off the hook. And I pull it through that hoop. I'll show you again. Take your hook, you go underneath that yarn, and you kind of twist it so the yarn is hooked in that loop, and then you pull it through. Alright, one more time. And take it, go underneath, twist it just slightly so it's hooked, pull it through. And you see the results that I've chained 3 stitches, so I did that 3 times. So you have 3 V's, and those are your stitches. So this right here is my knot. You have my first stitch, that's a 1 V, and this is another V shape, so that's the second stitch. And then you have another stitch right here, so that's my third stitch. So I'm going to keep doing this to practice my stitches. When we get to our pattern to make the cactus, you will end up needing to have, I believe it is 16 chains. 16 of these. And don't worry if it gets lopsided. Again, that's you all learning with attention, so some of my stitches here are bigger and some are smaller. It all depends on how you're tightening this part, holding that part. So just keep practicing this a little bit. Again, pull it under. You take the thing, go underneath it, twist so the yarn is hooked, and pull it through. So just keep practicing until you get a good feel of a chain that you're comfortable to move on. And there we go. And that is the chain stitch. We just done our chain stitch, and in our pattern we are going to need to chain 16. So I just did my 16 stitches, and right here I'm just going to teach you the basics of a single crochet. So once you have the single crochet, you will be able to basically finish up the green part of the cactus, or the cactus itself. So again, wrap it around your fingers to create that tension. And we're going to do a single crochet. Now in the pattern it says the second loop from the hook, so we're going to do that to practice. Right here, when you see the string or the yarn is attached to this, so that first V shape next to the hook, that is the first loop. See? The string's attached and it goes, see, I'm pulling it, and it goes through that first V shape. That's the first one. You're going to need to do a single crochet into the second one. So if this is number 1 right here, this right here is number 2. Let me use this so you can see a little better. So here's the first stitch, number 1. This second V shape is number 2. So you're going to always work into this second loop. Now how you do this, you're going to put your hook in through that second loop. You see it's a little tiny. You can see it right here. That's where you're going to end up putting your hook through. Put your hook through that loop, and then you know the basics of that chain, where you would go and the yarn is wrapped around underneath it, so you kind of turn and it looks that through. So you're going to end up pulling that through that first loop, and then you'll end up having 2 loops on your hook. That's good, that's what you want. So how do I get rid of these 2 hoops? To make my single crochet, I'm going to take the yarn again, and it's going underneath the hook. I'm going to twist the hook a little bit so that yarn is attached, and you're going to pull through both of these loops. And that's the single crochet. So now how do I do another single crochet that's on this chain? So we just went through this one. You see a little bit. Once you get the hang of it, you can start noticing where your stitch is, like we've just done. That's what I always found is the hardest part of crocheting, is knowing what's my next stitch. So this is where I just finished it. You can kind of see this piece of the yarn is looked through there. So I'm going to need to go into the next one down. So here is my next stitch over. So that next little V shape, that's where you're going to go into. So go through, again, put your hook through that hole. You have the 2 on there. Again, the yarn over the hook, twist the hook so the yarn gets attached, hooked in there, pull it through the first time. And then you have 2 loops on there. And then to get rid of these 2 loops, to make your single crochet, you're going to go and wrap it around again, twist, pull through. There we go. Let's try this again. So I just went through this loop right here. You can see it's a little stretched. I'm going to go through the 3rd chain from the hook. Right there. That's my next one. Take the hook, put it through that hole, that loop. Take the yarn and it goes over the hook. Twist the hook. The yarn is attached in that hook. Pull it through that first loop. And then 2 that's on here. We're going to get rid of those 2. Wrap it around under. Twist. Pull it through. And you can notice when our new row is coming up, which you'll end up when you finish this row, okay, how do I make this larger, the square even more? You'll end up going again, stitching through those things. So you see your new V's are coming up. So again, take the hook, you're going to go through that next chain over. Pull it through that part. Take this, wrap it around here, hook, pull it through the first loop. You have 2 on here, hook, twist, pull it through both. And the next one. Right here. Push it in. You have the yarn. Going to wrap it around the top of the hook. Twist the hook so the yarn is attached. Pull it through that first loop. Take it again. Pull it through both of them. Alright, and that is the single crochet. So I just finished my first row of single crochets and I single crocheted 15. Now in the second part of this pattern, and this is the next row that you're going to be doing over and over and over again until you get the length of your rectangle, is doing the single crochet again into the back loops. Now before you turn it over and start the next row, it wants you to chain another stitch. And when you chain another stitch, that will increase the length basically to make a nice kind of an even square up there. So that's the point of a chain. So I just finished that row. Chain again, remember? Pull through, and that's all you do is your chain. Now, when you turn the work over, basically it's the same, you just turn the work over. and it's going to have you working in the back loops. Alright, so what is the back loops? Now remember, all the stitches always have this V shape. So basically you're going to be crocheting in either into this part of the V right here, or this part of the V right here. Now, let's say, well, if I didn't have to crochet in the back loops or the front loops, you would just end up going through both this. So you see, there's a little hole right here. That's where your hook will end up going through. And if you're just doing a normal crocheting through both, that's what you do. But we're not crocheting through both. You're crocheting through either this loop or this loop. Now it says the back loop. So if this is facing towards you, then obviously these stitches right here will always be the front loops. Everything that's facing you is the front loops. So you're going to be crocheting into the back loops, which again is this part of the V shape. So the front loop is here, the back loop is here. So we'll do that first part right here. And again, it'll say the second loop from the hook, which you're going to start your crochet with. And remember, the V, the hook is right here, it's attached. This is your first loop right here. So you're going to start into this one right here. You're going to take your hook, you're going to push it through that back loop, the loop facing away from you. You have the two that's on you, the two loops that's on your hook. See? Let's try that again. It's caught. First loop, second loop. Second loop must go through the back part of that stitch. So you're going to push it through the back part of that stitch, and it's your basic single crochet again. You wrap it around the yarn and hook it, pull it through that first loop. You have the two loops on here. Let's get those two into one, so you wrap it around again. Twist so that it hooks, pull it through both. Okay, let's try it again. So this right here, I just went through this stitch right here. I'm going to go through this one now. And I'm only again going to go through that back loop. So this right here would be my back loop. This part right there. That's the back one. Push it through. Wrap it. We'll wrap it again. Pull it through both. And another time. That's my loop that I'm going through. And again, I'm only going to go through that back loop portion. So it's going to be right here. That's what I'm going through. Take the loop hook, pull it through. There we go. We'll wrap the yarn around, twist the hook so it gets hooked, pull it through that first loop. Take it again, pull it through both of them. keep going. Again, that's the next loop you're going through, but I'm only going to go through that back portion. So again, it's this one right here. So I have my hook, pull it through the back, wrap it a yarn, wrap it around the yarn, twist it, the hook, so it gets hooked, push it through the first loop, wrap it, push it through both loops, and there you have it. We're going to compile all our stitches we just learned to make the green part of our cactus. So here I just finished up the slip knot and I'm chaining 16 stitches. Remember to start in the second loop from the hook, and you're going to single crochet into that. And you're going to single crochet 15 stitches. So make sure, that's a big tip, is to count as you're going so your squares will always stay even. Chain 1 stitch, turn your work over, and then you're going to single crochet into the back loops of your work. Remember to start with the second stitch from the hook and crochet into the back loop. And you're going to do this for another 15 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work over, and then you're going to start in the second loop from the hook and working in the back stitches only, a single crochet, and you're going to do that 15 more times. Chain 1, turn your work over, and continue working the single crochet stitch through the back loops. And you're going to continue in this manner until you have 6.5 inches. You're going to cut your string, leaving a long tail. And where your hook was, you're going to bind it off by taking the end of the yarn through that loop, again where that crochet hook was, pulling it tight to make a knot. Now my tail isn't going to be long enough, so make sure that you leave yours longer, because I end up having to use 2 pieces of string to bind it off. Now to bind it off, thread the yarn through your needle, and then you're going to sew by weaving in and out. By weaving it in and out, you are going to create a drawstring. So when you pull the end of the yarn, once it is sewn, it's going to bunch up, and that's going to make the top portion of your cactus. I'm pulling it tight. It created that drawstring effect and closed off the top of the cactus. Now there's going to be a slight hole on there, but that's no problem. It'll tighten up and close off later when you're finished, and also a flower will hide it too. Now it's the time to sew off the cactus to put the seams together. As you can see, my string is too short to sew all the way through the edge, so I'm to get a new one. But right now I am showing you where you're going to end up sewing it. According to the pattern, you're going to sew through the first stem of the stitches. So I'm trying to point out the stems right there. See each of the stems on the stitch. So your one side will be through the stems, the other side will end up going through the loops of your other side of the stitch. Here I am weaving it through the first stem of the first row of stitches. So it's kind of like a little T shape, I guess, is what you're going through, where there's ends up two holes together. And then here I am showing the loops of your back stitches, the ones that you just finished to close off your final rectangle. You'll end up going through the loop. So basically kind of how you did crocheting into the back loops of the stitches, it's that same type. So through the stems of the one side and then through the back loop on the other side. And don't worry if it doesn't look as well as you want it to be or as nice. As long as it closes off and holds up the stuffing is what matters the most. And you can continue this all the way to the end of that little rectangle. Pull the ends of the yarn taut as you go, and that will seal up or close off the cactus together and creating the seam. Once you reached the end of the rectangle, finished off the seaming, you're going to stuff it. Once you have finished stuffing it, you are going to thread the yarn again through your needle and you are going to weave it. So basically how you did the top, you're going to do the same thing to the bottom. So weave in and out. And you're going to end up creating that drawstring effect again. Once you've finished and pulled it close, I'm just going to end up finishing off the final project. So what I do with the extra string, I just kind of weave it in and out, and then I'll end up knotting it together. So you pull it through the thread, make a one loop, and then you just knot it up. And there you have it, the first cactus part.